Hello to you. I do hope you're well. Welcome to this GCSE RE video. Today we are looking at the Islamic belief in Risalah, which means prophethood. So if we just take a look at the AQA specification, you can see there that Risalah is our fifth topic, and we're going to be focusing today on the role and importance of some particular prophets. There are a grand total of 124,000 prophets in Islam. You need to know, we need to know for the exam about Adam, Ibrahim, and Muhammad. In this video, we'll also be looking at Isa. And I hope that by focusing on these particular prophets, we'll really develop our understanding, and then we'll really maximize our marks in the exam when it comes to any questions on prophets. So here are, as always, the key beliefs in Sunni and Shia Islam. We've got the 6 articles of Sunni Islam on the left and the 5 roots of Shia Islam on the right. And as you can see, Risalah is shared by both denominations, which really emphasizes the importance of this belief. So Risalah, belief in all of God's prophets and messengers. It is so important for Muslims, and today we're going to find out why. So here is the key term, and it is Risalah, prophethood, one of the 6 articles and the 5 roots. It is belief in the prophets as messengers sent by God to communicate to people. There are, as they say, a total of 124,000 prophets in Islam, and the latest, the seal of the prophets, is of course Muhammad. So we'll be talking about him and his particularly important role as the seal of the prophets. Why are the prophets important then? Really important question for us in terms of our GCSE exam revision. Well, they are a channel of communication between God and humanity. So, for example, Muhammad received the revelation of the Quran, and then he obviously shared this with his followers. The revelation of the Quran seen as miraculous by Muslims because Muhammad was illiterate. They have brought important messages from God, for example, about how to live. And they have also brought the holy books. For example, Muhammad has brought the Quran, believed by Muslims to be the inerrant and infallible word of God, which contains his complete revelation. They show Muslims how to live their lives. So they are what we can call exemplars of faith. They are important role models who not only share teachings, but also model good conduct. So Ibrahim, for example, is seen as an exemplar of faith and obedience, and we'll be finding out why in today's video. And they confirm the nature and existence of God through their messages. So really important for helping humanity understand God and understand his plan, his purpose for the world, and how he wants his people to conduct themselves. What about what the Quran says then? So what purpose does the Quran say prophets have? Well, we're told they strengthen belief in Tawheed, so belief in the oneness of God, in monotheism. They give, the Quran says, glad tidings to believers and warnings to non-believers. They purify people, they establish justice, they resolve disputes, they unite humanity, they separate the wicked from believers, and they provide proof of God's existence through prayer, miracles, and other signs. So in short, prophets are very, very important, and they are this key line of communication between God and humanity. So in this video, as they say, we'll be looking at 4 prophets in particular: Adam, Ibrahim, Isa, and finally Muhammad, the seal of the prophets, the most important prophet we need to talk about today as the most important prophet in Islam. And so we'll be asking, who are they? Who were they? What is the key information we need to know about them? And then we'll be asking, why are they important, so that we are exam ready. We are prepared to get full marks in any questions we might encounter on the exam on the topic of prophets, on the topic of Risalah. So you are more than welcome to get the PowerPoint now. Go to the link in the description below, benwardle.org/GCSE, and you'll be able to fill this in as we go through. Otherwise, you might want to grab some A4 paper, divide it into 4 perhaps, or take 4 pages in the notebook that you're working from. However you plan to make your notes, just make it really clear for yourself that you need to know who the prophet is and then why they're important. That really important distinction just in terms of preparing ourselves for success in the exam. So our first prophet is Adam, and Adam was not only the first prophet, but also the first human to be created. And so his task was to look after the world. He was the first Khalifa, which teaches Muslims that they should also be Khalifas, that they have this duty, they have this role to be good stewards and to care for God's creation. So a great link here to theme B. He lived with his wife in a beautiful garden, but made the mistake of being deceived. However, they were forgiven by God, which is again important in terms of prophets show God's nature and they tell humans about God, because they then show, in the case of Adam, that he is forgiving. And he's highly regarded because God chose him over all the people of his time and then treated him with great mercy when he did make a mistake. So why is Adam important? That's the box in yellow. That's really important information. He is important as the first human and Khalifa. So Muslims learn about their role on earth from Adam. So they learn that they've got to be stewards and care for creation and look after the world, who was forgiven from sin. So Adam, really important as this first Khalifa, setting the example, if you like, as a role model in terms of being given this duty, this responsibility by God. And that is something Muslims take very seriously in their lives today, as we know from our study of theme B. Ibrahim then is our next prophet, and he is known as the father of the prophets because he is the father of monotheism. And he is seen as an example, as an exemplar of obedience and faith, because he was prepared to sacrifice his own son because it's what God commanded. And so he is seen as an example of obedience and putting his faith in God. So that makes him an excellent role model and example. He rejected idolatry and he was thrown into a fire by his enemies for this, but he survived. And that's why we know him as the father of monotheism, because he stood up against the worship of anything or anyone but God. And that then is the foundation point of monotheism. And as I said, he was prepared to sacrifice his son, Ismail, for God. And that is something that is commemorated by Muslims to this day. He also, along with his son, rebuilt the Kaaba, who is also his son with Ismail, who is also a prophet. So why is Ibrahim important? Well, he's important for his obedience, his faith, and as a father of monotheism, as the father, I should say, of monotheism. And so we can say, when we're talking about his importance, that he is an exemplar of faith for Muslims. So he is a great example of someone putting their faith in God, of being obedient to God. And that, again, represents him as an excellent role model, as an excellent example for Muslims. We then have Isa, who is one of the most honored prophets of God, who is frequently mentioned in the Quran and the Hadith alongside his mother, Mary. Isa is known for healing miracles in Islam. However, he was not divine. So obviously we know Christians believe that Jesus was the Son of God. However, for Muslims, he was not the Son of God. He had a miraculous birth, but he was not divine. He was not God's literal son, and he was not crucified to death. He is known as the penultimate prophet. So he was the second to last prophet. The only prophet that followed him was Muhammad, the seal of the prophets. Interestingly, Muslims believe he remains physically alive and will come to earth again near the Day of Judgment. So he has an important role to play in signalling the imminence of the Day of Judgment. So why is he important? Well, he's an honored prophet, but not the Son of God. He did not rise from the dead, but remains physically alive. He is important as a key messenger of God who will return as a sign that the Day of Judgment is approaching. So a really great link to Akira here, the idea of life after death, of a day of judgment and resurrection. And Isa will be a sign that that day is approaching. And then, most importantly, Muhammad, the most important prophet in Islam, the only prophet to have been given a universal message for all time. So the others, we could say, were culturally relative. They were given a message appropriate for their people in their time period. Whereas with Muhammad, his message is universal. The message of the Quran is universal. It is eternal for all people in all places at all times. And he is known as the seal of the prophets. He is the final prophet because with his revelation of the Quran, he seals the teachings. That is all of the teachings delivered. You do not need anything more than the Quran. That is it. The revelation, the communication has been sealed. And so he is important because obviously he received the Quran, but also because he personified all the qualities that make a good Muslim. And he is described in the Quran as the perfect man. His humility, for example, his patience, his forgiveness, his justice, they make him the perfect man. So it's not just what he received and taught, but it's what he embodied and represented. So again, he is an exemplar. He sets the example as this key role model. His sunnah and hadith are important sources of authority as well, recording his sayings and deeds, second only to the Quran. So he really is, I cannot emphasize this enough, the most important prophet, the most important example, and he is the source of these key teachings. You know, the Quran, for example, which is the universal message for all times, which God chose to reveal to him. So why is Muhammad important? Well, he received the Quran. He is the seal of the prophets. He spoke with authority directly from God. He is the founder of the Islamic religion. He inaugurates the Islamic practices. So he created many of them. He showed people how to perform them. He is seen as the perfect role model to emulate. He showed many of the qualities that Muslims should cultivate themselves. For example, humility, patience, forgiveness, justice. And he created rules and rituals that benefit Muslims today. So extremely, extremely important. The most important of the prophets, Muhammad, the seal of the prophets. So in the exam, you could be asked to explain 2 reasons why prophets are important in Islam. And I hope today's video will be able to help you to do that. Here are a couple of bullet points for inspiration. You could say they are a channel of communication between God and humanity. For example, Muhammad received the revelation of the Quran and shared this with his followers. You could say they have brought important messages from God, such as how to live your life. They have brought holy books which teach people about God and his rules. They show Muslims how to live their lives. For example, Ibrahim as that exemplar of faith and obedience. And they confirm the nature and existence of God through their messages. Thank you for watching this video. Good luck with your studies and have a good day.